Hi, I'm Paul Ford.
And I'm Rich Ciotti.
And this is the Aboard podcast about how AI is changing the world of software. And guess what, Rich?
What?
Usually we talk sort of big picture. AI, whoo, what's happening?
Ethics.
Yeah, fair. Okay,
Government.
great. That's literally what people think business people do all day. Ethics. We are going to talk about AI in the world of software in a very specific context over 2 episodes.
Okay.
And it's going to be interesting, don't worry.
Okay.
And it's about our software, what we're shipping, how we made decisions, and how we're going to accelerate the future of business software development like 5-fold.
It's about frickin'
It
time.
really is. It feels good to launch. Let's go. Okay, my friend, we did it. First, a high five.
High five.
Now, you can watch on YouTube. We have some fun illustrations, but we're going to be describing software on this podcast.
That's right. You might be listening in your ears.
So I'm going to try to make software come alive in your ears.
Yes.
So just bear with us. We're going to do a great job.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we have, when I say we launched a board, we've launched a product on and off over the last several years.
Half dozen times, yeah.
This, I would say, is truly the final form. In some ways, it's kind of a return to form for us.
Well, I don't think there's a U-turn because we're going to start building software for customers like tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we are now, actually, yeah.
So we don't have... This is it.
So Aboard, in some ways, is the truly accelerated agency. And at the same time, it's also a product. And I think that represents it's not just us. I think this is the way software is going. So we're going to talk about what we do and what you can do today. And people can actually kind of follow along and build the demo if they want to, because we make that available. But I think we should also talk about why we landed on the decisions we're making, because the big thing about these decisions is that there's a stopping point for where AI can get you. And I think people need to start owning, we believe, and what we're doing, we're going to own that stopping point and then help you get your thing done, whether AI can do it or not.
So let me say that back to you. AI can do a lot of things. It makes pictures, it can edit music, it'll make videos, it'll answer questions, which is how most people use it. But there's a huge audience out there, there's a huge population that is using AI to build software. They're trying to use AI to build software.
Correct.
And what you're saying is, it only gets you so far.
It doesn't finish. We've said it on the podcast before. It's really great at the first mile because it seems human.
Yeah.
It is not so good at the last mile because it's not. You need people. So what are we talking about? First of all, let's just narrow the domain a little bit. We're talking about business applications, things where data goes in, data goes out, multiple people log in.
Business logic kicks in.
I'm managing PTO. I'm keeping track of inventory. I'm doing classic
Right. We're not
things.
talking about video games.
No.
Right.
That's where we're focused. And actually the easiest way to get people into this and help them understand, thank God, is instead of us just talking about it, we can show now instead of tell. And if you go to aboard.com, there's a big text box right at the top. You can put in a prompt and it'll build software. And I thought I'll do that here. I'll read a prompt and then we can just sort of talk about what it builds.
Sounds great.
And then we'll talk about what those pieces are.
Before you start, we encourage you, watch this on YouTube because it's visual. There's illustrations, but you can listen to it as well. We're going to be very descriptive.
Great. So
let's do it.
I'm going to give you a prompt.
Okay.
Ready?
So there's a box. What do you want to build today? Go.
I have a large pumpkin patch, apple orchard, and hayride business with $5.4 million ARR.
Whoa.
What does that stand for?
Annual recurring revenue.
It took me years to remember that.
Yeah.
I need a PPP, picking, patch, and planting manager.
Okay.
To be fair, I made that up, but I put it in
Fine.
anyway. And a system for managing hayride scheduling and apple picking group scheduling, especially for large groups. We're also doing more weddings. I'd like to be able to manage employees, especially given seasonal variations, and to keep an active pipeline of new seasonal help.
Okay. So you just read the prompt verbatim. You're going to put that prompt into a box. On aboard.com, right? And we'll see what happens. First off, the way you read it, and it started off with, I have a large pumpkin patch, it sounded like you were reading out of a children's book, but that's okay.
Fair enough. I don't think we actually have to go. Let's not go through the whole process, but if you go put this in the website, it asks you a few follow-up questions, you answer.
Fine.
Okay. Takes about 4 minutes all in. It asks you about migrations, about all kinds of stuff. Let's skip to the result and talk about what it made.
Okay.
So I put the prompt in. I answered 3 or 4 follow-up questions, just, gave it my email.
It wanted some clarifications.
It turned its wheels for a few minutes, and it built me a thing called Harvest Manager.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to try out Harvest Manager. Harvest Manager starts with a dashboard. At the top of the dashboard, it says, I've got events, applicants, staff. So it gives me numbers. I have 69 staff. It's a pretty big pumpkin patch.
Right.
Okay. Stop for a second and just tell me what I'm looking at.
You're looking at a first cut of full stack software.
Why does it have all this data? How does it know about 69 staff?
So once it built the software, and we should talk about that for a minute if I think it'll be helpful, it pours in sample data so it can look somewhat recognizable to a user, right?
This is our experience as salespeople.
Yeah.
People, unless you put real data inside of an application that feels real and looks real, they don't understand what you're talking about. It's just boxes until they see their world.
People throw documents and decks about what software is going to be, and then when they see when you see real software with pretend information, and by the way, it's not like lorem ipsum. It's not like filler text. It's actually looks relevant to whatever you tried to build.
So I'm going to move fast because we're describing business software and people only have so much time in their life. But if there's a left side, it's built me an app. This looks like a business app. It is a business app.
This is worth pausing and putting an asterisk on this point. This is not a prototyping tool. It's actually full stack software.
Right. It didn't draw me pictures. It built me software instead.
Like down to a Postgres database.
Right.
Like it's a full-blown first cut of software.
For the nerds, this is actually just a web app.
I'm gonna go as seen on TV for a split second. I don't think anyone's doing this.
Not like this. We've looked around a lot.
We've looked around a lot. Usually it rushes to code and it kind of does a bunch of stuff and then shows sample data in like React components. This is actually a full stack instance of software.
You could, in fact, kind of hit eject, take that application, and just build old school
code on top of it.
It is just a web app, except it's a web app that is managed and controlled by a system that also has some AI tooling.
Right. So describe the UI.
Okay, so on it, if you've seen Slack or really any business app, you've got your left nav and you got your right area, which shows your data. And so what it did from that prompt, with very little other context, it created an activities and events section, a crops and field management section, and a staff assignment section, and also has room for applicants and hiring. And each one of those is kind of what you'd expect. If I go into activities and events, it's a Kanban board, and it says that it's like a sales CRM or a scheduling tool. It has things set to scheduled, confirmed, in progress, completed. I have a Lincoln Elementary third grade field trip for apple picking is here set for September 23rd, and it has information. And that's a card. I can go in, I can edit that card, I can delete the card, I can change the date. It has a phone number in case I need to call the person. There's a rain date. So it has made things real.
Yeah.
And we don't have to belabor this. If you've ever used business software and you go and see
Looks
this,
very familiar.
And you can follow the link and look at the Harvest Manager, like that's public. We share it out in the world. If you build something like this with our tool, you can share it with people too to show them. So I don't want to sit here and describe software when people can go make it in 5 minutes. But it built what is frankly a credible first pass business app. When I was building software with you at our agency, we spent months getting to this point every time.
Yeah, and it's worth saying out loud, when you put in a paragraph or two, even if you're very verbose, it still has to make a ton of assumptions about what you actually wanted. It's not going to be like, oh, you got it all wrong. Of course it got it all wrong, because whatever's in your head wasn't expressed that explicitly to a board.
But it's plenty of hand waving, but I can take that and I can go back and I can edit that prompt, right?
It's a hell of a starting point.
Yeah,
right?
I can iterate this way 3 or 4 times.
That's right.
And now I have something I can go show my boss, and I can say, hey, boss, do you think this is what we want?
And it's worth highlighting what you skipped, which is tons of conversations, note-taking, requirements gathering, passing around documentation of what the thing should be.
Let's be clear too. That is very valuable. That time, we're not actually trying to throw away the idea that people need to talk and think about the software they're building, but so much of that stuff is pro forma and sort of territorial. Exactly. When you build software, organizations reject it out of hand, and then you have to spend all this time convincing them just to let you put the box on the screen.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I can say that unequivocally, even though it's our company, even if we went out of business tomorrow, someone else is going to do something like that era of they won't
the ceremony and the steps and the stages
until you've begged long enough.
Yeah.
That's done forever and is never coming back. So God bless us all.
God bless.
So,
all right, what do we got here?
Well, we can build. Let's just talk about what actually happens, right? So you talk to the AI. Okay. And then in the background, how is it doing the magic? What's actually happening here? Because let's be really clear, and I think that the emphasis for the rest of this podcast is like people are learning about things like vibe coding, and AI kind of will do all this stuff, and agents and so on. We have a very, very specific philosophy, and I'll skip ahead, which is the AI doesn't write the code. Okay. It helps organize things, and then the software is produced in a different way. And we'll talk about that in a second. But what happens after you put the prompt in, a lot of agents spin up. Tell me about these agents. What's an agent?
So these agents are representations of specialized skills. A data architect agent, a user experience agent, a roles and rights agent.
And this is like when you use ChatGPT and you're like, hey, you are an experienced database administrator. Can you please tell me how to define this database?
That's right.
But it's 10 of those or 5 of those.
That's right. And I think what's different about our approach is it's nonlinear, meaning a group of skilled agents show up, talk to each other and talk to you about what you want, and then they fan out and do their specialized work.
Well, what you and I did, we're 20-year agency veterans, and we're working with agency veterans on our engineering team.
Yeah.
We simulated the agency process.
We simulated, and why did that process come to be? It came to be because you don't run to the construction guy and say, I need a house.
Right.
Like there's a lot of steps. There's permit approvals, there's architects, there's picking materials. There's so many steps before you can just start construction. And so we actually codified that process and simulated it through here. So that's why it takes 3-4 minutes. It's worth also like clicking in on that for a second.
Yeah.
Everybody's used to things just showing up instantly with AI nowadays. Our process is pretty complicated and there's a lot of work happening in the background. So it takes a few minutes. People will be like, well, this is kind of slow, but it used to take 6 months.
I actually, once they see the output, they don't say that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I've noticed that.
That's true.
Okay. And let's be clear. This is not a product for people who need, if you want a fully robust enterprise software app spun up from a 1-sentence prompt in less than 5 minutes, you might be looking for something other than what we offer. That's okay.
Yeah.
So those agents talk. Now, they make a thing. I'll describe it real quick, and then you riff on it. So what the agents do is they say, like, there's a database agent, and it says, here's the kind of data we're going to need. And then there's a UX agent that says, I think it should look like this. Mm-hmm. And they put all of that into an old school, it's not quite a computer program, it's a description, it's a syntax.
Yeah.
And it says, what this syntax describes an application that looks a lot like that prompt.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is, there's a lot of detail in there.
A lot of detail.
I mean, it is long. There's a specification we're building.
It's not code.
It's not code. It's a description.
It's a description.
But it's a description that, and the interesting thing about this description is like AI can generate the description. But a human can edit and understand the description as well.
Yes. And why did we do that? The best analogy I can think of for Blueprint is if you view the source of a web page, and I'm talking about a plain web page that just shows pictures and words and whatnot, it's a description of what the page should be. Mm-hmm. And then the browser takes that description and turns it into something pretty that you can look at and read and whatnot.
That's right. HTML tags become...
Exactly. It's not that dissimilar, what we're doing. Why did we do this? I think it's worth talking for a minute about why we did it. Because we're forcing AI to fill in a form effectively, and it has to stay inside the empty boxes of that form, it minimizes the sort of randomness, and it reduces the likelihood of AI straying off. And look, AI still might fill the form out not great, but now we have given it strict form, other definition of form to stay within. And when you do that, you end up with a much more predictable platform.
An enormous amount of our effort over the last year has been about getting AI to do less.
Yes.
In more structured ways.
Yes.
Right? And so all those little bots, they talk together, they come up with a good plan, they turn it into this syntax,
Yeah.
and now it's called the blueprint. Okay, now the blueprint gets transformed.
Yes.
Okay, and we call this generation. It's a little bit like compiling code. You go from this blueprint thing, which don't worry about what's inside of it. It's data objects inside of it if you're a nerd. It's
We've been struggling with this verb.
Let's go with compile for this. For right
go to
now,
compile. You could do render, like a browser renders markup. There's a lot of words.
So what it does, now what's inside of the blueprint is a description of the data model,
Yeah.
a set of instructions for the user experience, a set of user roles like administrator, user, subscriber, whatever.
The common building blocks of software.
And then what's evolving now is also a set of business rules. What to do. Somebody updates the inventory, go ahead and check the other external API because maybe
Fire off some event.
we might be out of shoelaces, that kind of thing. So it's software, like it describes the software and it compiles it into this application, much like Harvest Manager, which I just showed you.
Yeah.
Harvest Manager is a demo on the web. The sort of more formal version of a board is that plus actual login through your Google account and all the real sort of businessy stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the pieces, right? So first we have, and this is why the 5-minute part is really wild and why it's a little more than a prototype. First we have a database.
Yes.
Okay. The database has like all the things that database does. Like you can't put, you might not be able to put two things with the same ID in. It
holds information. It's a bucket.
It's a bucket with rules.
With rules, and also information is related to other information. So there's a nuance to it, but it really is a place to hold information.
And we stand that up, and it is a cloud-based Postgres database.
Classic stuff.
Like it
modern.
It runs inside AWS. One of the interesting conversations is people are like, it's really hard to get stuff like this into my organization. We're like, if you can deploy AWS apps, and they go, well, I can do that.
Which, by the way, we're not married to. If you told us, look, this needs to be on Azure, fine.
That's right.
It's pretty agnostic.
So, because it's just a web app, right? So we're trying, and let me just get meta for a sec. We're trying to take this new exciting world that everybody says is completely different than everything that ever came before.
Yeah.
And bring it back to the good old reliable world of solid software that people use all day, as opposed to a weird chatty robot that tells you things.
Great.
So now the other thing, because of what we did, you get something that works pretty good in mobile. You get all those niceties of the web app.
Yeah.
Regardless, it could have RAG and AI and all these wonderful features of chat, but we're not shipping chat. This is just an app.
And let's take a minute and acknowledge, software moves fast, but 2 billion people use Excel, and many of them are not doing math in Excel. They're just putting information in it.
The world thinks in tables, but that next step where you're organizing the tables are really hard.
Yeah.
And so then you saw it with Harvest Manager. We're going to give you, when you do this on the website, get your own little place. It's a board.com. There's a secret URL. You can share it out, and you can talk about it
with your colleagues or friends or whatever.
And look, this is a demo product. We live in the future. It's very exciting. Many wonderful things are happening. But I want to just pause for a second and talk about what actually happened, which is that you're a smart software person, even if you're not a coder. You type some words in a box, about a paragraph of words. They're pretty well informed words. They know about your business.
Yep.
And a set of processes spins out, and the first draft of a robust, real software application exists in 5 minutes. And we get some credit for this because the blueprint is novel, we're doing some good stuff, and so on and so forth. But this is the real world now.
Explain.
I don't think that people have metabolized quite what I just described.
It's coming.
It's not just coming, like, it's here now.
Yeah.
Like, you can now say to us, hey, that was pretty close, or like, I need these two things, or I need to migrate some legacy data. And our lift, the way a board works is you'd come to us, you'd say, I just got to finish this. but we're thinking you're going to finish it sometimes in weeks.
Yeah.
Like what
That's
used to be
unheard of. It used to be 9 months, right? Or 6 months or whatever it is.
And I think it's been very confusing, right? Because you get this promise, like come to this website, vibe code a little bit, and you'll have your app.
Yeah.
And for really smart people who kind of are connected to computers and understand how a lot of stuff works, they can get really far. Like product managers who have a good technical understanding
Can play around, yeah.
but that's still like less than 1% of computer people. Like you really like it doesn't quite get you over the hump that much.
Yeah.
And this, I'm not promising that we do that in a minute or that you can do that by just sort of sitting there and typing in your underwear.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like, this is $1 trillion category of the world.
Yeah.
We're trying to carve off our little piece and hustle and make
Just a few $100 billion.
just a few, but you know, we have our office and we have a team, and we're gonna
Yeah.
we're actually we already have clients, and we're gonna keep working with people on this. We want to make lots of friends. We want to work with partners. We want them to use it. But the reality is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's so we've been
you're
living
right.
inside of it for 6 months.
Yeah.
and it's 5 minutes to something real that is now, but both real and substantive, and used to be. I'll give you an example. When I used to go build stuff like this with our company and before, that first meeting was terrifying because you've now put 4 months in. They've rescheduled 3 times because it's not the most important thing to the CEO. You're going to come in and you're going to show them this thing. The entire company that you're working for has changed management 4 times. And you're going to put this thing up on the screen, and they're going to say, well, we don't really do that deal. We didn't really do that deal with Meredith magazines that we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we
Stuff
still
moves, right? The world keeps turning, and
I don't know if we still need this. You guys are great.
Yeah. Well, the cycle of building software is so long.
And it's been 4 months, and 2 of those months were you building, and 2 of those months were corporate politics and slowdowns and so on. And so you tell me socially, culturally, that it's 5 minutes. And I'm going to tell you in response, well, that, for better or for worse, probably some ways will be worse, is a radically different software industry than the one we were in 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that...
Yeah.
And so when we talk about AI, and we've had to be elliptical because you got to get your product done so you can show it to people before you can talk about your product.
Yeah.
But when we've been kind of riffing on this stuff, this is the reality that we've been. This is why we did the podcast, because it's genuinely, we're not young dudes. We've been in this industry for a while. I made a career out of
Speak for yourself.
You're very young. I made a career out of explaining this industry before we did. Before we started the agency. This is hard to explain.
It is hard to explain.
Which is why it's so exciting to have something to show.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I think that's worth saying. I think for a lot of people, software in companies that don't care about software, that need software, it sort of lives in the category of like the internet bill or the
rent.
The rent, right? It's sort of this necessary thing. Otherwise, it's not. And so what's happened is
This is important, but let me pause you. Many people who are in the software industry, because it's such a big industry and they have so many people who are also in this, and so many people are tech adjacent, don't have the exposure to realize that 99% of people don't care at all.
they don't care at all, but they also know. But they've been so beaten down. They also know that if software can be incredibly powerful for your business and incredibly additive and incredibly competitive, if you can get a good team in place, it can change the game. But it's so rare. It's so rare such that business stakeholders they've sort of resolved themselves. Just make sure it keeps running. Just make sure it just runs.
One of the worst parts about running an agency is no one came to us because they were happy.
Yeah, that's true.
They came to us because
we were last resort a lot of the time.
It was expensive. Things had failed.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get their thing.
That's right.
So they're like, well, I guess I'll do this.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we would deliver it. But we were very expensive.
We were expensive, and you really needed the will to even deal with it, which is the other point I want to make. If you can spin up credible-looking stuff that you can walk around in a few minutes, it doesn't have to be perfect, because it was a few minutes, for Christ's sake. It is not just
I love how defensive we all are about that.
It's not just a sort of starting point for a project. It's also a social tool. It's a political tool. There is no more powerful political tool. You can have the best, most lucid, persuasive bullets in a deck, but when you show someone a thing, it is very, very powerful.
You know what's brutal here too is that, and I do believe this, and again, whether it's us or somebody else, this is much, much cheaper.
I mean, the idea of charging for people's time for across many months times many people are sort of behind us.
This doesn't
it's
mean
not
that,
there yet, by the way. But
it also doesn't mean that like no one has jobs in the future. I actually don't buy that. I think there's much more software. There's like the need has been so great for so long, but there is a realignment because if these slick huckster fellows with their AI toolkit can show up at your company and build you a prototype in 5 minutes and then credibly deliver a real thing in a couple of weeks, and it costs a fraction of what the old thing used to cost,
it's very disruptive.
which, let's be clear, that's our proposition.
Yeah.
That is not great if someone else has been telling you that it's 36 months.
Not just that. There's people to build a new thing. Then there's armies of people who just maintain the thing because they don't want to change the thing because it's been too expensive to change. So you just have people who just sort of, they wait for the thing to like hit those rare conditions and they just sort of monitor and they man the systems and they restart them once a day because there's memory leaks. There are hundreds of thousands of people whose job it is to just make sure like it just keeps running.
I believe that too. You know? So I think we're in this it's a really complicated moment in the world, but I think we're in this incredibly wild moment for the software industry where something radical and transformative is happening, nowhere near as radical and transformative as like AGI, but rather like all of the systems that we're dependent on that are slow and that we've been waiting to kind of improve, and I really need that report and all that stuff. I just think that's over. And I don't think it's over in a day. I think it might be 5 years.
We're in the beginning of that transition, I would say. You could see it.
There is a point in the future. Today, I know a mid-level person at a charity, and she really needs a report, and it takes her a week to cut and paste it from Salesforce to get the data, to put it in Excel to do the report so she can get her funding.
Yeah.
And she can't get the Salesforce people to do it because it's not on the roadmap and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay? I do not believe that a few years from now, that can continue to be the case, and the Salesforce vendor can continue to thrive.
Yeah.
Right? I think that you have to be, a few years from now, that she is going to turn and she's going to say, hey, can I get that report? And either her or like a nice nerdy person is going to type a report description into a box.
And they're going to get it.
And it's there forevermore.
I agree with that.
And that is really coming. That is around the corner. And that's so much of software. People don't talk about it because they talk about it like Adobe or Apple.
No.
But that's so much software.
100%.
And so that's the way we're going to ride. That is what a board is. We wanted to tell you about it. Go to the website. Check it out.
So wait, that's it? I mean, I just type in a box and I get my software and then you pay a bill?
No, we're going to talk about this one in the next podcast. But after that, you can talk to us if you want to get this thing like deployed and safe. We are also now building some of the characteristics of an agency. It's very product focused. But we are building and partnering with firms that can actually get these things across the line, partly because that's where our baseline is, but also that's the limit of AI. AI cannot ship you an enterprise application out of the box, no matter what anybody...
It's a relay race. AI is a really great first leg runner, but it's got to get handed off.
Well, and I'm going to give you a challenge. If you don't believe us, go get the documentation that this thing produces for your app. Okay, look at what we built, and then go upload it into Claude and say, build me this app. We give you all the instructions.
Yeah, a board generates a spec.
Yeah.
In fact, if you use it at aboard.com, you'll get a PDF of the description, and you can take it wherever you want.
That's yours. Go see if you can. Literally, go see if you can do better. I'd love to know. Like for real.
Reach out.
And like, so
how do people reach out?
They send an email to hello@aboard.com. They can go and try out our tool and put a prompt in. If you see something surprising or confusing to you, we'd love to hear about it. We're still very new, but we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch. And then next week, we're going to talk about how we're building this organization and how we're going to provide services.
Awesome.
And then we're going to, these are the two where we just sort of talk about where we're at, and then we're going to bring back the rest of the industry into the conversation.
Sounds great.
More guests.
Thanks for listening. This sounded like an ad. I guess it was kind of an
It's
ad.
an ad. It's okay.
But guess what? It's a killer tool that can save you a ton of money. Oh, shit. I did another ad.
It's okay. I had a really good time building this thing with you. There were some ups and downs. It's been a long couple of years to get here, but man, I like this thing because
cool.
everyone can get their thing. So go check it out. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great day.
Bye.